What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Tuesday Track Talk with your Three Stones Pit Crew, episode number 90. We're on this one here. So I'm your tire changer Cam,
I'm your Jackman Cal.
And I'm your gas man, Cam.
and we're gonna have a little bit quicker episode this week. Kind of hit straight to the point, mainly NASCAR talk on this one, as we were all pretty busy this weekend, whether it was boots on the ground or we had other events going on. So um just gonna hit a couple of things. We had the World Outlaws at Cedar Lake for another sprint car run up here in Wisconsin. Like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit about NASCAR Atlanta. Hit the news, give out another Wheelman of the week, and then look forward to the week ahead. So, what's going on, fellas, since we last reconvened with each other?
A busy weekend of family. We always say you got to get to the racetrack, but you always got to take care of the people that you love too. So, this weekend for me was the weekend of spending time with close family and making sure that you're also spending time with them. So, unfortunately, that came at the cost of no racing, but that's all right. So got to spend time with family and see some relatives I haven't seen in a while. So that was refreshing and good to see, and good to see some smiling faces. So it was fun.
Um, and since we're brothers, we're both in the same boat. So what he does, I do. So similar situation, and yeah, it came at the cost of not seeing a ton of racing, which is I feel like just a damn streak that was broke a streak that was we had quite a run going there. And then what I did tune into, I know it got going later, but I was watching the uh late models at Cedar Lake. Of course, I tune into that and starts raining right away. So then the yellow was out and just a tough weekend for catching racing for me. But like you said, can't do racing every weekend. Got to do some family time as well. And guess one could say we checked that box for a while again. So
I
You're
was able to
both.
get
we
a
can get back
couple
to
this week.
business next weekend.
I was able
Uh,
to get to a couple this weekend, but
yeah, we
Yeah.
were relying on you.
Yep.
uh grandfather was not able to go to a couple week races this weekend. I call it a good graces weekend for him.
Yep.
Stayed home, so
Especially knowing next week.
yeah, yep. So let's
Yep.
shall we talk about a little bit of racing here, or at least whatever we did get to see or were involved in and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
we'll start off with the World Outlaws at Cedar Lake. I was able to be boots on ground at least for the Friday show of that. I did not go to the Saturday show. Um Friday started late with the amount of rain that we ended up getting up here on Thursday and early Friday morning. There was some grim looks as far as whether they were actually going to run on Saturday, on Friday night, but they ended up actually getting her in. Um, Again, it was a late night. They didn't even start hot laps till about 7:30. But nonetheless, even with hot laps, I was out the track at about quarter after 11. And that
Not
was even
terrible.
not even and that was even with me sticking around a little bit for the sprint car or the traditional sprint features, the sport divisions. So
Yep.
got the showing pretty quick. Helps that there weren't any massive wrecks or red flags or anything like that. But something unique that they did for this one, just with the pits being as muddy as they were, they parked out in the back parking lot, like obviously where we've parked in the past,
Yep.
and it was free admission to the pits since they couldn't really block it off.
Nice.
So yeah, I
It's
got
kind
to
of a little perk. And that parking lot, if you haven't been there, that back parking lot like basically looks over that parking lot. So if you sat on the backside, you could kind of almost see into the pits too.
yep. So yeah, I got to just roam around. All the sprint cars are obviously parked out there. Check, just kind of bummed around there for a little bit before they got on track and then went from there. So, Bill Baylog had issues pretty much the entire day. He had, I believe, it was electrical or motor issues in the car. Just couldn't get it to run. Um, didn't qualify too hot. Missed his heat race. Started in the back and had to work his way up from there. Obviously, coming off of a strong Houston's weekend and being again back home in his home state essentially.
Yep.
Want to put on a good run. So uh he was charging up though. He started 23rd, charged up to 17th there in the first stint, had to pit for a flat tire. And then went from or no, he went from 23 to 13, had to go from 17th after he pitted, and he went 17 to 7 after that.
Still a decent car.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. So and then on Saturday night, I'm trying to see if I can get where he was at Saturday night here quick.
I think 5 and 7. I think on Saturday night he finished fifth.
Fifth. Yep.
Sorry, 7 and 5. 7 on Friday, fifth on Saturday.
Yep. So again, just trying to get some consistent runs going, build up the points standings there for him. Um, it was pretty much a David Gravel show on Friday night. Um, I mean, he led all 30 laps. Carson Macedo gave him a little bit of a run for his money, but when it came down to it, it was definitely a David Gravel show there. So continue his blockbuster seasons, double digit wins for him now. And then Carson Macedo ended up winning on Saturday night, helps his championship fight there. So
Yeah, that that team that Gravel drives for, they have traditionally ran fairly well at Cedar Lake too. They've had wins. That organization at least has had wins at Cedar Lake with other drivers prior to Gravel's arrival there too. So um, they have a good notebook on that place. So you had to know they were going to be tough to beat too.
mm-hmm.
And
um
I don't want to. I mean, uh, not to skip off of this, and I know he didn't win it, but when we're talking about Billy Baylog and his two being able to finish 7 and 5, I mean, not flashy wins, but these are runs that can ultimately win you a championship. Honestly, to start off and have the troubles that he did, and then to be able to pass the cars like that he did. Um, and like Brad Sweet says, if he's got a fourth place car, like he needs to finish fourth. And I feel like these top 10 runs where things aren't going well, you're starting deep. Like for him to be able to get two solid runs out of that weekend, like that almost sometimes feels like a win when you're in these, coming down the stretch here, championship battles and stuff like that. Like just like a workman-like performance that, sometimes you just need those kind of weekends that don't get the win, but you maximize what you had. And so, um, yeah, Billy's trending in the right direction to say the least.
yeah, and if he can't be in that championship battle with Gravel and Colford and probably Macedo, honestly, he's fighting to just crawl up the point standings in order to get that year-end fund as well. Um, he's got a ways to go though. He's got a ways to catch up to Gio Selzy, but then Donnie Schatz is right there as well. So depending on how the rest of the season goes, and again, those like you were saying, those consistent finishes up front can chip away at those points, especially when them guys have bad nights. Um, and yeah, I can just get himself up the point standings where even a couple of points positions is a little bit more money that goes to that year end fund, which is a big deal for a small team like his.
Yep.
I didn't
So
even see too the shows the team's earnings and under the owners or team points.
points, yep.
Interesting little thing to put on the point standings, which is cool. But yeah, and I like we said, these consistent runs are what you need, and I think we all know this and we've talked about it too, is that championship is going to run through the two team, and they're going to be tough as hell to beat over the course of a year. But um, yeah, you just keep maximizing what you got, and you never know at the end of the year, see where you're at, and just might have a shot at it.
Yep. He did bring out that black and gold um April Anderson's maple syrup car for that weekend as well. It looks really good on TV. It looks really good in person.
Well, I believe that.
Looked damn good in person. And also, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see it. I think it's this one right there behind my shoulder here. I ended up getting that metal wing panel from him, signed with a gold marker, gold Sharpie on the black. Looks real slick.
Nice.
So
That's the we should preface everything he says is that he's a Bill Baylog fan. You haven't caught up on that, so that paint scheme looking really good in person, no surprise.
don't get me wrong, sprint cars just look really good in person to start off with.
Yeah.
Gio Scelzi's car looks really good. That nice neon orange. Um, Han Shields look really good, but again, that black and gold Baylog one, just kind of a little bit of a throwback scheme to himself on that.
Yep.
So, yeah, like I said, Carson Macedo won on Saturday night. Then, Gio Scelzi led a good part of that race. He's been pretty good at Cedar Lake in recent past. Carson Macedo is also really good. So then two were going at it, but Carson Macedo ends up getting the better end of that one. Um, Saturday night seemed like it'd be a pretty good show. Obviously, track got worked in a little bit more with it being dry and could get it to where they want it to be. But even then, Friday was still a decently racy track for what they had to deal with. So the Cedar Lake crew, the track crew put in a ton of work to get it to where it needed to be and had a great weekend nonetheless. So kudos to the
Yeah.
track team.
On top of the track itself, if you have not been to Cedar Lake, that place is just incredible top to bottom. Just in terms of there really isn't a bad seat in the place.
Yep.
The place is very well taken care of. Obviously, some produces some incredible racing. So, um, when the track is really, really good, it's really, really good to be there because it's just an awesome place in general, too.
I think you would have put your cheeseburger rankings up there pretty high for Cedar Lake as well. I had a couple of them and pretty tasty.
Yep,
Cheese curds were good as well. So
absolutely.
cool. But yeah, that was my time at Cedar Lake. I was glad to actually be able to see a sprint car show up there. Um, Kind of makes up for Angel Park a little bit, missing out on that one, but hopefully we'll get to hit that later in the year. So, um, any other thoughts here before we move on to a quick NASCAR deal?
No,
No,
I
not
think
really.
too. I guess last point. Um, like you said, kudos to the track team. I feel like the state of Wisconsin, the most important part is get the racing in, and I feel like it's rained here for the entire last week. Um, and so to know that you got there starting late and still got out of there at a reasonable time is awesome to hear. So it good work or shout out to that facility and being able to get that show in a timely fashion and having that truck ready to go because it's been geez, it's been a wet one up here in Wisconsin for like the last week and a half. So
And yeah, it's like I said, there were a bunch of tracks that called their race on Friday night, and I made that trip. I'm like, God, I just hope it does not one of those that I get up there and they cancel it. And nope, fought through it. So
Yep.
great time. So, um, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit of NASCAR here. I think amongst the three of us, I got to listen to the most of it, and that was the last 30 laps at that. But um, I'm sure we all saw at least Twitter segments or stuff like that, which essentially turned the race really up on its head was the two wrecks that we had in that one. Um, First one taking out Blaney. I know Larson was caught up in it. I believe Bell was caught up in it at one in that one as well. Um, so that took out a couple of the guys, but then yeah, then you had the massive one, the 23 car wreck shortly after that.
Yeah, it's more of the who wasn't involved in that scenario, more than it was listing the guys who were involved, being that it was just chaos,
Yep.
I
And
think is the best way to describe it.
I think the official count was like 23.
Yep. Yikes.
Well, with it,
That was an expensive wreck.
well, and with that track being so close quarters, and obviously as close racing as it is, and speed that they're putting in, it doesn't take much for to pile in like that, especially when it starts up in the front the way that it did.
Right. And that's even, I would say that one's even a little tougher than Daytona or Talladega. It's just so much tighter
Yep.
in terms of just pure track width where yeah, your guys in the back might be able to get on the binders soon enough, but when it's just a lane more tight than it would be at a Talladega and you don't have the runoff to get to the bottom with a paved apron, it's just when they're running three wide like that, when they wreck up front, you're pretty much got nowhere to go.
And I think the sense of speed is there too.
Yeah. So
And I mean,
And,
speaking
that
of,
and
took
that's
out.
yep,
good.
I was gonna say, I mean, that took out contenders too. I mean, obviously Blaney was done in that first one on the trend of either running really well or wrecking, and getting right hooked at a drafting track.
yep,
Um, but then yeah,
checked
that
all
big one.
checked all three boxes with that race pick.
Yeah, unfortunately. Um, and then yeah, like I said, you took out your big one, Austin Cindric, Byron Logano, who got a very meme-worthy ride out of that. Um, Kellen, I think you're the one that sent it in the group chat earlier.
yep.
Briscoe, Suarez, Chastain, Barry, Hamlin were a couple big ones, and then Bell dipped out after a while. Um, and then some obviously a lot of other guys had damage that just kind of hindered the rest of their days as well. So
Yeah, and I think when you look at those wrecks, those two racks early, I mean, really what it did is it kind of opened up the conversation of what we had talked about last week. Another new winner. When you look at coming down the stretch to the three guys that were going to have a crack at winning that race, Alex Bowman hasn't won a race. Chase
yeah.
Elliott hasn't won a race. Brad K was fighting for his life, leading that race literally until the last lap. Um, was trying to win a race.
Well, and even with that, I'm going to throw more names into that mix. Zane Smith was in the lead within 10 to go. Ricky Stenhouse made his charge up through the front. Tyler Reddick made a charge on his way from the back as well. So, I mean, you had three additional guys. Eric Jones was up there as well. So, really, the top seven of that one all led a lap. You could even throw Busher in there if you really want to. So, nine or eight of the nine of those drivers led a lap or was near the front at one point within 20 laps to go.
Again, all guys that haven't won a race yet this year.
Yep. And could really have put that playoff, well, and even then, it really did put that playoff in up on your head because now you're talking 12 different winners
Yep.
and only four spots left. So guys they're sweating a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about somebody like so when you look at the playoff standings, the bottom two drivers are Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. You could have it's going to be a long stretch to get it, but you could potentially have race winners not being in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about that?
I think that's what everybody wants out of this system.
I agree. I think now
No, I didn't ask if that's what everybody wanted. I asked if you guys like that.
I do.
I do.
I'm on it.
And
And I
especially when this goes really well with my argument that we briefly touched on last week, and I think was episode what did we say 60 about our ideal playoffs.
yep.
You get whoever in the playoffs, and then you do that 10 race stretch run after that. So yeah, it makes not only winning a race important, but you need to have that second race as a guarantee.
Yep.
Because even then, let's just say we do get our 17 winners. like you were saying,
We
Elliott
got
and
we got
Chastain.
what, 8 races left to the playoffs?
I can tell you.
7 or 8.
Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And we got
Three
some wild
road
cards.
courses. 3 road courses in Daytona are in there.
Rough.
And this very well could be a shot where I think we're on a spot that we could see 17. So you throw 3 road courses in there.
Yep.
Mi amigo Suarez, Dinger.
Yep.
You throw in Daytona. That's anybody.
Yep.
Spinhouse. Um,
You throw
Bushwhacker.
Yeah. You throw in a Dover. We'll see
Now
what
let's.
All right, so
see what
let's
they
get into
bring for
this.
a short.
So I don't know if this is worth getting into, but what driver on the outside looking in could you see pulling off a win?
I mean, Dinger is the first one that comes to mind, especially with the road courses. But a guy that now are we talking he wins his way in or points his way in, or either?
Either.
I, if I'm looking at somebody, I think Ryan Preece is in a really good spot as well. Bubba Wallace is on a little bit of a rough stretch, and he either goes on a rough stretch or a really good stretch, and he's in a rough stretch at a bad time right now.
Yep. Now, mind you, he's still 23 to the good,
Correct,
but
but
23 is not a lot.
no, that could be a race swing.
Now, when I look at it, if we don't get to 16 different winners, the guy that points his way in is Tyler Reddick. He's
Well,
120.
correct.
He's 128 to the good. So,
Yep.
like, I find it hard to imagine that he does not finish a single race from here on out.
But again, if I'm looking at the outside in, I think Priest is in a good spot where he can do a lot of determining his own fate by just having good point stays. Whereas you get to guys like, I mean, Jones is right on that cusp of being able to points his way in, but you get to Dinger, Holsevar, Bush, where they're starting to hit 60 plus points.
Yeah.
That must win scenario is starting to loom.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you start stretching that, and those are just a few of the names right around the bubble. You start to go a little bit further. For some reason, Ty Gibbs is decent on road courses.
Yep.
I'm
Snake.
not going to say he's going to outduel a Dinger or an SVG, but at Mexico City, he gave himself a chance.
Yep. And we're waiting on Brad to get a win.
Brad K is 28th in points. Like he's doing all he can, but you start to get to those plate races. You look at a Daytona, McDowell is decent at plate racing.
Yep.
Ricky Stenhouse is decent at plate racing. Those are two guys that are 73 and 77 to the bad.
Brad K. So there's
Brad K, you get the Ford camp together, and those Ford guys push each other around a little bit. Then you can start to throw a Todd Gilliland in there, who's
Brad's good at Daytona, obviously.
back.
And especially, like you said, if you get that Ford camp going, like they were at Atlanta, you get Brad K, Ryan Preece, and Chris Buescher up there in the front with 5 to go. They're not going to let anybody by them, but they're going to race each other too. Brad K is going to give that order of as long as we don't wreck each other.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, those are the handful of guys that you look at.
so
JHN has been fast recently, but I just can't trust the guy right now.
Yep.
I do think stock up Legacy Motor Club. I know I hit on that a little bit. Coming on, we cleaned house at that entire organization. I know I said this last week, but I am stock up on there. I feel like Jonesy's got to do something here. He's been in the series for a while, but I don't know. I feel like as of late, they continue to show flashes. Now we got to be able to do this for an entire year. We can't do this for 5, 6 races and then take 10 weeks off. We got to be able to do this. Hey, spring the
Which
entire year together.
which makes me wonder. and this is kind of off topic, but it brings it in the same time. Johnson said earlier today that they want to bring in a third car, which bringing in another car is hard to do. And then
Yep.
to be able to run good at that, which I get it. He wants to expand the operations and have a big team, but if you want to have two solid cars, you need to have two solid cars.
Yeah, you got to have those things dialed in before you start. Do you want to hit your golf ball into the bunker? Or you want to hit it on the green,
Yep.
or do you want to be in the pickers where I would be? That's, and I
But
think RFK is kind of the testament to that right now.
where
They're
they're finally
starting.
get
They're starting to finally get those three cars, all three of them in spots to have cracks at winning races.
Yep, and they took their time on getting the two. Busher was obviously your solidified guy. He was getting in good runs regardless. You needed
Yeah.
Keselowski to get comfortable in his new position and getting that car good, which they were putting together some runs and then got that win. Now you bring in Priest, who, you took advantage of the charters that were out there with the Stewart Haas team, and you
Yep.
brought in Priest with that. And I think he's showing his worth. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
So I think he's having a little bit better year than I thought he was going to be honest.
Yep.
So now it's all right, now instead of just being in a comfortable position, now let's really start fighting for wins. Top
Yep.
tens and fives and wins.
Yep.
So we've got a
So,
good playoff race coming up.
and so my question to you is, so we just threw out a handful of drivers that we think could totally mix us up. Looking at the schedule, these drivers are talking about getting to 17 winners. Do you guys think it happens?
My gut says no. I could see 15, but not 16.
I I I say no, but I only say 14.
Okay. The hard part is
I'm
we're talking about this bubble, the bubble. You can't. Let's scroll back to the top. You're going to tell me you're going to count Denny Hamlin, Bell, Byron, Blaney, Cindric, Logano, Larson. You're going to count these guys. We can't count like these guys aren't going to show up
Yep.
because they're watching what happened last year at that championship battle for the regular season title, and it came down to 1 point. These boys at the top here, we can't forget that. Unfortunately, the battle's at the bubble, but old boys up here at the top are going to show up with one agenda, and that's either to score a boatload of points or to win races.
I tell you what, those boys in the bubble are hoping they're the ones that win. Because if
Correct.
somebody up, if a Reddick wins, well, Reddick actually wouldn't be bad. But if a Dinger wins, if a Holsevar wins, that cut line gets a lot farther away for them.
Correct. I don't know. I could see 15 would be three more winners. I can see a Dinger.
Yep.
I can see a Busher, a Reddick, and then spin the wheel on Daytona. You could pick any car that shows up.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about 15. Throw on 3 road courses, those can be Gibbs, mi amigo Suarez, Dinger. You throw in Daytona, and then you throw in, like you said, a Dover, and Lord knows, Bubba Wallace, Reddick, somebody like that, Busher. I feel pretty confident about 15.
Now, something I'm going to throw in here, and we don't need to get too deep in the conversation, but if I'm an SVG and I'm a Trackhouse team, I've got those 3 road courses. Obviously, starts next week at the Chicago Street Course, but I've got those road courses circled because that's a great opportunity for me to get wins, get playoff points, and helps my chances get into the round of 12.
or the fact of just getting away from being at the bottom of the playoff order.
Well, that too. Yep. But
Let's
again,
not talk about the round about the 12. Dude's just got to get himself locked into this top 16. Assumedly so he is. But there is that, it's the 99% to the 1%. You can't eliminate that 1% yet.
nope. So again, we got a heck of a playoff run in line for us here.
So talk about runs. I think can we just touch on this in-season championship or in-season challenge thing quick?
The one that absolutely got destroyed this week.
Yeah, is there legit anyone that has are there any available
No,
brackets left?
NASCAR came out and said that there are zero
Zero.
brackets.
And NASCAR put up that $1,000,000 and said,
We'll
that was
take it
fun
back.
while it
They-
lasted. Yeah.
Well, so the NASCAR chasm, being the NASCAR chasm that he was, he took that NASCAR graphic and he just slightly put Ty Dillon in that middle of that zero.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the matchups, this is what plate racing does. The 32 seed takes out the 1 seed.
Yep.
I mean, some of the other ones kind of mixed-ish reviews. Bubba Wallace is a 9, beats Suarez at a 24. Stenhouse beats Bell. That's a 429.
Jones beat Chastain at 20-3.
Gregson beats a Briscoe a 31 to a 2.
Dinger beat McDowell at 22-11.
So your top remaining seed left is a 3 in Chris Buescher.
Yep.
Man.
This thing got topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
Real quick.
So now that we look at this,
You got a Dinger Gibbs matchup going into a road course.
yeah, which that's a pretty good matchup in all honesty. It's a really solid matchup.
Bowman.
I'm looking at this. You know who's kind of sitting really good to make a run throughout the rest of this? Chase Elliott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That bottom left corner is a absolute nightmare.
Yep.
Weak.
Yeah, because he's got Nemechek for Chicago.
Yep.
And then whoever, he would presumably winner gets either Jones or Stenhouse, which would be round 3.
Which is Sonoma.
Yep.
It was got to go through that right hook to get to the championship.
Yep.
I caught what you were getting at. Attaboy.
I mean, the toughest quarter or the toughest part of that bracket's got to be the bottom right. Dinger,
Yeah.
Gibbs, Smith, and Buescher.
Because Buescher has won at Sonoma before. Dinger is obviously a good road course racer. Dinger and Gibbs is a good matchup. So let's just say if Dinger and Buescher move on, you got Buescher and Dinger at Sonoma,
Yeah.
which is a hell of a matchup.
And then you go to the top right hand piece of that bracket, Gregson Priest, and then Hocevar and Reddick.
Gregson Priest, I think, is going to be a very underrated matchup.
I could see it.
That could either go really well for both of them or it could go really bad for both of them. It's just a matter of who has a better day.
Yep.
Who has the better bad?
Yeah. Bowman and Wallace, too. That's your best, I guess, heads up matchup.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping the old 3 machine made a run.
Got it.
You just like
Can I
chaos, don't you?
can I ask why?
I don't know. Just because we saw what he'd do for a race win, I can only imagine what he'd do for $1 million.
Oh God.
I was just gonna say, were you not just ragging on RCR not a couple weeks ago?
And his brother, what did he finish last week?
I had a Denny.
Yeah, did he finish about 26th?
No, he actually finished top 10. Hold please. He finished 8th.
That's a Super Bowl.
He's a
That was
guy.
that was a championship race for him right there. And
You
he's
guys are probably
and,
gonna bash me for this, Cam,
and he,
more than Colin. Dylan is actually not having a half bad year. Ty Dillon. For I think
coming
what
off
the
of that
expectation
Super Bowl
was.
performance he just had,
Well,
and he's gonna
Yeah,
sell.
but hold on. I'm gonna
Finished eighth, and he's gonna make a living trying to sell merch off of his post race one liner.
I'm gonna go kind of not to dissect your statement. He's not having a half bad year. What about the other half?
well, yeah.
No,
I
but
mean,
I
I
would
mean,
I would
Jesus.
I would
He's
I would agree. He's exceeded what I expected, but it
yep.
still
And
needs to be
I think
worse.
So
what that part is he's not wrecking the car like I think we're used to seeing.
yeah, perfect. Well, because he's riding around in 32nd. There's nobody back there to wreck it.
Hey, you know what it is if you're back there with the squirrels.
Get your nuts cracked.
Well, when you can't catch a draft at a track or you're fighting for to stay on the lead lap 10 lap 15 laps into a race, like it's
He's
not
doing this.
bad.
He's doing this right here.
Spotter, hold your line. Got him coming on the outside. That's on lap 20. That's what he's hearing in his helmet.
He's,
Leaders coming four back. Hold your line. Stay low.
oh my god.
Oh God.
Oh. Well,
I'm.
got it.
I
Well,
guess.
okay.
I guess so. I'll. You guys. You guys are. I'll finish the conversation with. I mean, he's exactly where I expected him. 32nd in the points.
I mean,
So let's be honest. Last year when they announced Ty Dillon to colleague racing full time, were you guys just like, oh yeah, that might be fringe playoff?
No.
no.
All right, that's all I needed.
All right. So based on who has advanced in this bracket challenge, give me the
Yep.
championship match right now.
Sounds like you're going Ty Dillon.
I'm
No.
not.
Well, I think consensus we agreed is the easiest path here is to throw Chase Elliott in.
Yep.
I mean, I'm thinking,
NASCAR's
look,
most popular driver.
dude, yeah, and
I can't wait to hear the conspiracy theorists on this one.
well,
I mean, when I look at it, if I had to pick a final four, Reddick, Busher, Chase Elliott, Brad K.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Well, I'm gonna swap out Brad K. This is gonna be a little bit of a maybe a little bit of a surprising one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bowman sneaks his way in there.
Yeah, he's won the Chicago street cars.
last year,
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the other ones I feel like are semi straightforward,
Yep.
pending a complete and utter disaster, if that's the right word.
Hmm.
I mean, we're
dude,
in the
yeah,
middle of it already, so it don't really matter.
it was good to see that white wall get a little frisky on Saturday night and show some emotion.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
Well, now he knows he's racing for $1 million. No one
Yeah.
told him.
Yeah.
didn't know he had that in him.
Good
Jesus.
I mean, yeah, we can talk
I mean,
offline about some other
this
thoughts.
bracket, this bracket went worse than March Madness.
And you know what? It's actually halfway entertaining now.
I know, and the worst part is it's half as many teams to pick from than March Madness.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I can't even hang my hat on this that I'm still alive when you guys aren't. That's all she wrote.
So let's just throw this out there. You got an underdog. Obviously, there's a fair share of underdogs. Is there an underdog you would like to see make a run at this?
That I would
Somebody,
want to see make a run at this.
yeah,
Well, I'm looking at three of them right here, and they're all on the right side of this bracket.
Priest.
Priest, Dinger, and Smith.
I was gonna say Priest and Busher would be two of mine.
Busher, an underdog at a 3 seed?
no, that's not an underdog.
Correct.
I guess if I'm thinking. I'll be honest here. I would go Priest, but I would also throw in a legacy car.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna pick Jones.
Jonesy or JHN. It's a little frisky.
JHN could easily become the most hated man if he eliminates Elliott.
Dude, I legitimately wanted. I don't know where NASCAR is sending out the survey to get results that Chase Elliott's the most popular driver, but
All right, so
make some comments that I'll make offline.
I'm gonna take your Austin Dillon comment here earlier. I'm gonna twist it towards this one.
They probably
Are
bring Elliott's bring a couple boxes of ballots in at 3 a.m. when he's the most popular driver.
My God. All right, I'm gonna pose my question here before this gets too off the rails.
Yep.
Do we see somebody move somebody in order to beat somebody in the bracket challenge?
I hope so. I hope to God we do.
I would say yeah, because there's guys like you said, fair share of underdogs that are not in the playoffs that are either going to be. I mean, you look at a Zane Smith, who he's well out of the playoffs. All right, we're on the playoffs. It's get a win. So not only that, but it's like race to win, and you're in the playoffs. If we don't win, do your damnest to get $1 million.
And I think if
And
we're
for
gonna
those
see that, it's
people
gonna be this next two races.
and
Yeah.
those guys, yeah, and then those guys, like you said, I think like those guys like Ty Dillon, like now that this has happened, like this is it's the only shot he's got to make the playoffs is winning in. So
I'm seeing
smoke the
it.
tires off of this. This is our championship now.
I'm seeing it in road courses. I'm seeing it in two places. I don't see as much. Daytona,
Yep.
I'm not going to count that.
Indy's the last one.
Yep, hairpins and S's.
Yep.
Those are your chances to shove them off deep in there and get
Come
a
out on the
spot.
other
And hope
side.
to God that you bring somebody with you that they can't get to your bumper.
Yep. This could get really interesting really quickly, to say the least.
Big time.
So
I don't know. I am highly intrigued by this. I'm not watching the race winners anymore. I want to see these matchups get together.
yeah,
I want to see Di Dillon get around Mr. Brad Keselowski and see what
this
happens.
is this is chaos in the making right now.
Correct. Imagine Ty Dillon just houses the six.
Oh man. Imagine Nemechek just hauls the Elliott.
I
Sends him
mean,
straight into the tire barrier.
it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I'll be dialed into those radios when they get around each other. See what.
Oh boy.
Just a reminder, we're racing for $1 million.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
All right. Any final thoughts here, fellas?
No. Probably should go ahead and jump into some news, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. So how do we it's pretty much all NASCAR news is what we got here today, but how do we want to handle this?
I got the top two because I put that one in there.
Well, you might as well get the three then, because they all kind of go in line with each other.
All right. Looking at the top one, kind of quietly, kind of sneakily on Twitter, if you follow Dale Jr., he announces another business partnership with Blake Cook. It's called Jerky Boys Jerky. It's beef jerky, and their punchline is it's so good you won't share. I found it intriguing. Dale and Blake Cook are obviously business partners in another adventure in terms of home air filters as well. But I just saw that and I'm like, Dale's just dipping his toes in everything. He's just living life large.
Yep.
So,
Blake Cook, former race car driver himself.
yep. So, non-suing NASCAR teams will have to turn over limited financial documents to the league. So, some teams are going to have to turn over some purchase orders, is what I'm assuming. Operating budgets, things like that, that they
Yep.
are working with. And then kind of sticking with this NASCAR deal. Um, the motion by 2311 and Front Row Motorsports to force other leagues to comply with financial info was denied. And there was a few reasons listed with that. So
And I've got him right
basically,
here.
when they were talking about, I believe it was the NHL and the NBA were the two that they wanted
And the NFL.
to get involved in terms of money-ish stuff.
Yep.
Those were all denied.
Uh, some of the reasons that were listed by Bob Pockrass, it's confidential commercial info and disclosure would be harmful. Info is not relevant to the case, and much of league financial info is already public knowledge.
Yeah.
So, um, Cam, you want these next two or you want the last one?
I'll take the last one.
All right, I'll take these next two. So, Redline Motorsports is hoping to have a full-time NASCAR effort in a NASCAR National Series in 2026. They are currently partnering with Alpha Prime and Brad Perez for the Chicago Street Course race coming up. Some of the people involved with Redline Motorsports, there's an IT sales technologist, there's an attorney from the Chicago
Oh,
area.
hey, you're getting into NASCAR. You got to have an attorney.
Yeah. And he's a pastor, so I don't know how you feel about that. Um, there's an entrepreneur and ownership in a transportation company,
Oh, yep.
educator and CEO of Universal Dental Clinics, and then probably the most notable one that we will all know, Zadarius Smith, the NFL Pro Bowler.
Oh,
So,
so
yeah.
wow. What quite the array of professionals that are
Yeah.
involved in that
Conglomerate, as
formation.
some would say.
Yeah.
So, speaking of purchases here, TJ Pertry, Perchy,
Yeah.
Pertry.
Yep. Sounds like it.
Uh, he was the co-founder with some other people for Spire Motorsports. Has agreed to buy Rick Ware Racing. Um, so reading a little bit into it, basically it'll be a partnership. So Rick Ware will still be involved in some of the racing operations. And then Cody Ware will also still be a part of the racing team itself as well.
Uh, Legacy. Where do they fit into this? As they were bouncing their.
So Rick Ware's second charter that they have is currently leased to RFK, which is where the legal claim is coming into that whole deal.
Jesus
So there's
God.
some on the team after they still haven't settled the dispute for the one charter that is currently leased out by another team. Yeah. And then
God.
both Puncher and Ware are confident the second charter currently leased will be returned to their team in 2027.
Uh-oh, RFK.
So,
That's RFK, right?
correct.
Dude, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Take that for what you feel like it's worth.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Yep.
In
Okay,
other
I'm hit up
news,
on some good stuff.
NASCAR and Flow Sports will simulcast 7 events on Flow and NASCAR's Fast channel. So, feel like that partnership is continuing to grow and evolve, and getting more and more things. That partnership is continuing to grow.
I have that list of events here. Those events include the summer shootout for the Legends cars at Charlotte, the ARCA race at Sonoma. Um, I'm gonna assume it's the modifieds season finale or the weekly season finale at Bowling Green Stadium. The Valley Star Credit Union 300 at Martinsville and Snowball Derby qualifying.
Yep.
So really, this is events that are currently on Flow Racing will now be on NASCAR's Fast channel. Is essentially what
Yep.
it is. So,
Yep.
all right, Wheelman of the week. We got a handful of nominees here. We got a couple of late model ones, and then we got a couple of local ones here as well. So, I guess I'll take the last two. You guys can decide on the top two, unless you just want me to read them all.
Go ahead.
All right. Nick Hoffman goes back to back wins on Friday and Saturday for the World Outlaws. It's also he went back to back at River Cities, I believe, is what he went for the season. He won at the same track last year. I'm going to
Yep.
verify that real quick. But otherwise, next one up, Tim McCready gets himself another win late on Sunday night. Obviously, has one of the best, probably a really damn good celebration of just cracking beers in Victory Lane. Um, Norman County. That's where he's won at before. Norman County. Speaking of Hoffman. And then sticking with the local stuff here, Casey Johnson gets around Ty Fredrickson late in the race to win the Dells Alive for Five race. Um, they put on a hell of a race there at the end of it, and Johnson got the better end of it. And then Parker Jones for the Badger Midgets at Angel Park wins the B main, goes from the back of the field to win the A main on Sunday at Angel Park.
Damn. Casey Johnson's quietly having a very good year.
Couple more wins, yeah,
We're back to seeing the Casey
on a
we know.
full-time season, yep.
Yep.
So, all right, what you got for a vote? I don't know if we're consensus on this because we never talked about it, but
I'll cast the first vote, Nick Hoffman.
Who you got?
well, I think mine's kind of obvious here as well.
Yeah, I was gonna go Hoffman as well.
All right,
Is he another two-time?
he is another two times, so we got 4 2 times now.
Wow.
Closes the gap on Bobby Pierce a little bit in that points battle.
Yeah, I just looked. He's 78 back.
Well, I know Pierce had an issue at, I think it was River Cities, and then he finished third, I think at Norman, and then another podium finish for McCready's race. So cool. All right. Schedules. Looking at races ahead here. Schedule is out, so we won't really hammer on a lot of them. So we'll kind of focus in on 1, 2, or 3 of them here. I am keeping an eye on the BC 39. They are racing at the dirt track at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Again, BC 39 for Brian Clausen, one of the really cool races out there. They've got, I believe, 56 cars currently entered for that one, racing for 20 grand for a 2-night show there. So, looking forward to that one.
Cam, what you watching?
We're looking at the yellow if you're looking at the schedule.
I was looking at my talking points. And I said, "What am I watching? Looks like nothing. She's blank."
Well, here, I'll feed you one. Roll
um,
for 50.
that's got to be World Outlaws at Deer Creek.
Sure is.
And then just giving a quick breeze here. Lucas Oil was in action for a couple shows this weekend, starting at I think Atomic, and
Yep.
then
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Muskinum,
Muskegum.
Muskegum.
Muskeg, for another one. So, um, plenty of dirt late model action for you this weekend. This holiday weekend coming up.
Yeah. Kind of two of them that I have my eyes on. Looking ahead to a little bit more of our realm of racing. Saturday night, July 5th, Tundra Super Late Models head to the Dells for the North American Cup 100. So they'll be headed there for that one. And then the other one, I got my eye on it, and this kind of alludes to what's coming later in the week. Midwest Truck Series back in action on Sunday night for the prelude to the Nationals. They've shifted their feature to run on Sunday. Pretty cool deal. So Brandon Regenberger, who we've had as a guest, was the winner of that event last year. So I'll be dialed into that one Sunday night post Cup race.
Yeah, and they'll be on Flow. So if you're looking for something to watch, that'll be a good one to watch. Yeah, as we get
Yeah.
ready for the Slinger Nationals here. So speaking
Yep.
of, we've got some things to figure out on our end, but we're getting close to that point where we're gonna talk about that coming up. But before we get too far into that, we gotta talk about Chicago and some race picks here. Um, the Cams did not do too hot this week, and we actually gained a little bit of ground on our points leader. But we still have a ways to go. But unfortunately, he does get first pick for the Chicago street course as well.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So whenever you're ready, Cam.
Two people in mind.
Come on now.
He's thinking of
I
which one he
guess,
wants to give us.
yeah. How we feeling about Jizzy?
I don't know. How do you feel about the old SVG?
McDowell. How do you guys feel about him?
Just pick one. I doesn't matter what I think.
Give me Jizzy.
Makes my decision easy. Give me Gibbs.
Jizzy's my ride or
Whoa.
die.
Gibbs, huh?
I need a points
Oh.
day.
Yeah,
Don't
you need a points day.
don't feel like that was the pick for a points day, but
Yeah, I have a feeling he'll put himself in a compromised position, I'll say.
Tiger barrier.
Yeah, or get tangled up with someone else. He likes to do that sometimes too.
or blow his lid inside his helmet.
Yeah. He finished second last year. Give me Reddick.
All right.
I need that to help me out.
Something I didn't realize, and I don't know if I'm gonna bring it up. Fantasy wise, we haven't done a fantasy update in a while. Oh, that's not what I want. Here, let's just do it this way. Um, yeah, we haven't done a fantasy update in a while. So looking at it here, I didn't realize this until I looked at it on Saturday, but apparently I took the lead in fantasy.
Yep.
Jared fell to second. Gasman's girl is currently third. Cam, you are in fourth. Kel, you're in fifth, and Sophie's pit picks is rounds out the sixth spot.
All right, time to lock into that. Holy shit.
I've had a few bad stretches where I've got myself in a situation on a Sunday afternoon where I've had no phone service, so I've had to set my lineup in the event that I haven't been able to get to the app.
Yeah, Cal, this past weekend with all the family stuff we had going on, couldn't watch the race. So that was
Couldn't watch the race, and then where I was on Saturday night for a wedding, I was in SOS without Wi-Fi. I had to
It's
use a hotspot just to set my lineup up, and I just set it with the idea that I'll never be able to check it again. And then one rack in, 3/4 of my lineup was shot.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're back dialed in, coming down the stretch here. I'm gonna get that fourth spot though, because I'm only 65 back. That's still within reach.
Yep.
my back of what?
You
Buddy, you're in the dust.
actually, it's only 55. Okay. Yep.
All right.
Colin's doing
Any
a lot of
final?
this back there.
You
Tear
got
offs.
you got some of that cinema dust that Busher had, or
Yeah, apparently.
all
But
right. Any final thoughts here, fellas, before we sign off for the evening?
Slinger Nationals preview coming up.
Yep, we're gonna have Slinger Nationals preview coming up. I think our schedule is pretty much going to be the same for the Slinger Nat or around the Slinger Nationals as far as episodes and stuff like that. But keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a big feature for us that we got coming up here. So keep an eye out on socials for that. If you can make it out there, it is reserved seating. So make sure you buy your tickets ahead of time if you're planning on going. If you are planning on going, meet up with us. We're going to be there roaming around the pits. Excited for that one coming up. Obviously, make it out to your local short track as well. We've got a lot of great racing going on this week and the weekend as we hit pretty much the middle part of the year for a lot of tracks and a lot of places. So get out when you can. Hit the bells on the socials. Check it out on all the socials as well for any updates. Until then, otherwise, we'll see you on next week's episode of the Tuesday Track Talk.